Wop 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 wop. I'm sorry. Hey, hello. Um, what's up, y'all? So today is the 14th of May, which means it's time to see what the old farmer. Oh my gosh, can I speak? It's time to see what the old farmer's almanac has to say. Now that Mercury is about to go retrograde, I think that I should practice enunciating my words more so that they don't just like stumble off the tip of my tongue like little intoxicated word things. So I was kind of sort of accidentally opened up my spreads and from the Build a Spread series, or Build with Me, I guess, series. And I saw the Salamander spread and it wasn't written. Like, this is the Salamander spread. Hold on. Like, this is all I got. That's all I got for the Salamander spread. And so it's like the format is there. All of the identifiers, I guess. Ooh. All of the identifiers are there, but the meanings aren't. And so the salamander, okay, yeah, I was like, why was I thinking of the Ouroboros? So since it's the salamander card and the mystical dreams tarot, the wheel of fortune is the Ouroboros, but that snake still has legs, so it reminds me of a salamander. And I guess it's interesting that like if you cut off its tail, the tail will grow back, but if you cut off the legs, they're gone forever. In some species. So I was going to use the Mystical Dreams Tarot as the orange underlay and another deck as the overlay. And I'm going to be using my favorite virtual assistant to help me decide what it'll be. But first, I'm going to get into the Daily Farmer's Almanac. And I'm actually going to timestamp this. Let me just do this real quick. 00. Oops, those were circles or O's, not zeros. Farmer's Almanac, and then the Salamander Spread. Boom, there we go. I need to update my description box to include the podcast link. Last night we recorded for today, and we pulled around each of the planets retrograding this month and Pluto. So Pluto, Saturn, and Mercury. And it was actually kind of gorgeous. It wasn't necessarily easy, I guess, but it was a very gorgeous energy. And I guess, Jupiter just entered Pisces, but it's going to retrograde back into Aquarius in July. I think Russ said it's going to go retrograde for the majority of the year, I believe, and then it'll come back into Pisces at the tail end of the year, maybe right before the nodes shift into, or maybe not like right before, but before the nodes shift out of mutable Gemini and Sagittarius. So Jupiter might square the nodes in the space of that transition. Okay. I don't know what that means. Well, Jupiter squaring the nodes almost has a feeling of like when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. Like when it rains, it pours type of energy. And maybe it's like after that whole meeting with Saturn and all that Pluto retrograde stuff, I feel like Jupiter might be carrying an energy of what was the word? I had it and then I lost it. Like I don't want to say it's going to be more discriminating, but it's like we have this typical view of Jupiter as like a great benefic one that always brings good fortune. But maybe after Pluto and Saturn, it's learned that like sometimes you have to give good as a reward because it incentivizes in some way growth in a specific area. Kind of like how a lot of people talk about how participation trophies have ruined people. Maybe not. So, anyway. But that's, I guess, what that feels like. It's going to be expanding what is there to be expanded upon, right? It's like if you put Jupiter in the middle of Elysium, then you'll grow more Elysium. If you put Jupiter in the middle of Tartarus, then you'll get more Tartarus. If you put Jupiter in a sewer, then it's like, it's going to be sewage and toxic fumes everywhere. Isn't necessarily going to inherently clean it up, but it might. Who knows? I don't know. So, May 14th. Today is a very special Taurus's birthday in my life. So, happy birthday, big sis. Tomorrow is another very special Taurus's birthday in my life. Happy early birthday, Grandma. I am your grandma. What? Okay. Folklore says that if a woman eating bread and butter inadvertently takes a second piece before finishing the first, she will marry soon. I don't know what this is about. Folklore says that if a woman eating bread and butter inadvertently takes a second piece before finishing the first, she will marry soon. The words that stand out are folklore, woman, bread, butter, second piece, first, marry. I don't know why I feel like Lilith is trying to pop into my mind. Maybe because folklore, woman. I don't know what this is. The ring is here. I should use the Mirror Truth Lenormands today. Bottom of the deck is the Nine of Cups. Top of the deck is the Queen of Wands. I mean, that could be a low Lilith. I don't know why that. Give him or me give him something he can feel. Give him something he can feel. Not everything is something. Maybe that's the message today. Also, shout out to Lauren B from Untitled Tarot. After she did co-live with Rob, I was like, "Oh, I'll check her out. I'll check you out," and then it never happened. But I did last night, and she had a video where she like did shadow work in real time, or she talked about doing shadow work in real time, and it was gorgeous. And I teared up, honestly. Um, and I feel like there are so many little like it sounds like cliches or little things that it's like it's almost like it's hard to do before you have an appreciation of it, maybe, or there's a way that it can be made much more profound when you actually experience it. And but it is what it is, right? So it's not like I don't know. It kind of reminds me of High Priestess energy, where it's like, well, I already told you what the answer was, but like you just don't have the context or you haven't experienced it in a way that reveals how profound it is, right? It's like it's not pretentious, it's actually quite profound. If you're in the space of understanding rather than a space of dismissing. I don't know. So I'm pulling the Mirror Truth Lenormand cards because this deck has a ring in it and a woman card. And it doesn't have a bread or butter card, but that's fine. I want to get 2 or 3 of these. Lenormands, you kind of read in. It's so interesting. Like, I'm not the type of person that really sort of abides by convention too much. But with these Lenormand cards, I'm like, you're supposed to read them in pairs and in conjunction with each other. So I rarely pull one. And I picked my hair today. Okay. Fox in the Sun. 14 and 31. The bottom of the deck is the tree. There's a butterfly in this tree. And there are birds in the background. There's also a little bit of a snake infinity energy with this tree. The butterfly is the only thing that really stands out, and it's a bright orange color. Now it's interesting because both the fox and the sun have an orangish motif. What's this? The nine of clubs and the ace of, I can't tell, with the 7 of hearts. This is 5 and 4. 5, 4, 5. 14, 31, 5. So there is a little bit of a step back energy. And even with the fox and the sun, it feels like there's an energy that's something. It feels that like it's this feeling of like with this folklore, like someone tricks a woman into grabbing another piece of bread and butter before she finishes the first, right? It's like maybe she takes a bite or 2 bites and she begins talking and it's like, okay, now go distract her. And then so they take the first one and then she reaches for a second one and she eats it, and as she's like continuing to talk, maybe they put the first one back into place and now she's like, oh my gosh, that means I'm going to get married soon. And it doesn't feel like deceptive at all. Honestly, it reminds me of the 7 of Swords in the Wild Unknown and how it's come to be my birthright card. Now, the 7 of Swords in that deck is my birthright card because one time I was randomly pulling cards from the deck and I got the 7 of Wands, the 7 of Cups, and the 7 of Swords. And at that time, I was like new ish. I was new to tarot, and so I sent it to one of my buddies and I was like, hey, like, what do you get from this? And he was like, I don't really know, but something birthright and something, or wasn't 7 of swords? Yeah. 7 of wands, 7 of swords, 7 of cups. That's what I said. Because I remember the 7 of pentacles wasn't there. And he was like, maybe like there was a birthright that maybe you thought was taken, but it'll be returned or something like that. I actually forget the specifics of what was said. But that's where it came from. And it feels like it was something there for safekeeping. The deceptive energy here, though, it feels like maybe I want to say like Heyoka, but not necessarily. Because it feels like whatever this Fox situation is, there's actually like a reason or a purpose behind it. Right? It's almost like we're putting it's like that one show, it's like What Would You Do? Or it's like Punked. where it's to see, or it's for you to see what it is that you're actually ready for. It's to illuminate something. And I guess it kind of sort of reminds me of that hostilities card the other day, a little bit. And they're very much sort of like the same color scheme. The last time I saw the fox, it's like the fox was turning itself into a mouse to lure snakes out of the grass. And so it's something that like almost deceptively appeared to be so much less than what it actually was. Right. And so like let's say that it is like not even like someone taking the piece of bread. Like let's say that there are some ladies who go to lunch or whatever and they're having tea or whatever and bread and butter. They're having something and bread and butter. And let's say that like one of the women just absentmindedly takes another piece of bread and butter before she finishes the first one. Or let's say like she doesn't like crust. It's something like that. And so somebody else is like that piece of like bread and butter is still there, and you like grab the second one. That means that you're gonna marry soon. And she's like, oh, whatever. She's like, oh, I'm not superstitious. But then like she actually ends up marrying soon. Like maybe she meets someone or something like that, right? And then with the tree down here, there is an energy of something long standing. The tree and the key. Hey, that rhymes. The key is 33. The tree and the key is 33. And then number 11, the rods is behind it. Hey, Zelda, how you doing today? So it's a 5 4 5 6. So we move forward here, but in like taking that step back, we get some kind of clarity. So there may be a little bit of an energy of like redirection here as well. But it doesn't feel like it's complete redirection. It feels like it's something very minor in comparison to like everything else. But that little orange butterfly is the key to moving forward, or like it's the thing that was missing. And we see birds in both the sun card and in the trees. And there are these little pieces of the fox illusion as it sort of dissolves, like these little things right here. Those could theoretically grow into these birds that are present here. So it's something about like the dispelling of this illusion that actually leads to something, or it's like a divine trickster type of energy, but it leads you to something good. It's like a test, but it's not a test. House sitting for your dad and stepmom, missing your daughter, but going to go see your sister, working all weekend. Well, I hope you enjoy time with your sister, even though you miss your daughter. There's something about this as it like what it reveals afterward that leads to something that leads to something that is like this long awaited breakthrough, because you have 33 and then 11 is behind the 33. And I don't think 33 or 11 were cards that I saw for the mothers spread when like 77, 22, 66, and some other master number came out. I think I had to 65 was the 11. And it's like that's also the thing about folklore is that we don't necessarily think of it as holding any truth necessarily, depending, right? The moon and the letter 32, 27, and the cross is behind the moon 36. The moon and the letter, it almost feels like secret feelings or hidden feelings revealed. Oh, we have the sun and the moon here. There is a lunar eclipse at the end of the month and then a solar eclipse next month. The fox and the ladder, the sun and the moon. Maybe this could also be the space of like self deception, or it could be the space of things that we kind of sort of actively sabotage for whatever reason in order to prevent something or to cause something. It feels like what it was doing is, in some way, it was preventing happiness or it was preventing something from being revealed because maybe we didn't want to know. Because it's like, well, I think it'll turn out this way, but like, I'd rather not know. I'd rather live in that. Like, if you have any Pisces in you, or if you're just like that, it's like I'd rather like hold on to the fantasy. I'd rather hold on to the illusion than know the truth. And it reminds me, I just watched that movie. It had Cameron Diaz in it, Salma Hayek. I think that's her name. Come on, what was that movie? It was a movie about Cameron Diaz and how she kind of sort of like all the things that she did to protect her heart, and then she ends up falling for this guy, and at the end of the movie she's like, "Oh, you were much better in my dream." It's almost like that. Maybe not. But in this, like if this was a sort of self-deception type of energy, then it's like there are certain things that we kind of sort of do to hide ourselves, but it's still like it reveals us. Right. Like it's almost like there are certain patterns of behavior that outline certain traumas. And that's why therapy can be effective for some people. It's like, well, typically when people do this, and that, it's because there's this underlying trauma at the root. And it's almost like that type of energy. But with the letters in the moon, maybe something will be revealed. And whatever this revealing is, it's like the little bit of transformation, that little bit of like radical honesty has the power to completely shift the tree into the key. And it's almost like it, like, because this top part already matches that, but it's almost like it reconfigures the bottom part to match this keyhole. And then it's like, oh, like now everything fits because it's reminding me like of enzymes and competitive and non-competitive inhibition, and how it's like, well, if an enzyme is already occupied, or if an enzyme already has something like binded to it, then it doesn't allow for it to actually catalyze what it's supposed to catalyze, right? It's a 3 frequency. We have a 31 and 31 and 32. Look at that. The sun and the moon. Now it's the moon and the sun. Now the fox is with the moon and the letter is with the sun. I like how that, I like how that shifted. It's pretty much the same, right? But it's like there was something that we were holding on to for whatever reason, but in finally revealing it, it makes room for something to change that has maybe hit a period of stagnancy. Maybe it plays out previous sort of cycles. That's why the tree is so like so fully grown, even if this is a fairly recent situation. Hey Amanda, how are you doing today? Who was this? The dog, the fish, the snake, and the scythe. Okay. Dog 18, fish 34, 7 and 10, snake and scythe. Dog, fish, snake, and scythe. I love that this ends with the snake and the scythe, because snake can give transformation and wisdom. And then the scythe is, it's also an energy of transformation. It's an energy of harvest. It's an energy of reaping, but it's very quick and it's very efficient. And with the dog and the fish, it's almost like this energy of, yeah, I mean, I stayed up pretty late last night. So I've been doing this thing where I'll wake up feeling like pretty energetic and then I'll just be like tired by the middle of the day. But also I've been like uploading like crazy lately. So glad that you caught me too. So with the dog and the fish, it's almost like there was this area where we were kind of sort of back and forth for a while. And then it's like two steps forward, one step back type of energy until, but it's like in this period of time, it was developing a sense of trust, or it was allowing us to see how worthy of trust something was. No, the thing that's worthy of trust could be a person, could be someone in our life who is like sort of always there for us, or this could be developing our trust in spirit, right? This could be a strengthening of a sort of spirituality, with fish being more Pisces. And I know that the fish are related to like finances and stuff. I'm not quite sure how, but, and with that increased trust, that's why it leads to such quick and efficient transformation. And again, it's like this tiny little orange butterfly is enough to move things forward in the space where it's become like this whole tree. Like there's a lot of time here and so little time in the lifespan of a butterfly comparatively. I don't know. This is the Mirror Truth Lenormand deck. I got it on Amazon by Sylvia Netzner. I was looking for a Lenormand deck on Amazon, and I was like, "Oh, Mirror Truth!" Like, yeah, I gotta have that one, right? I heard that the Golden Reverie Lenormand is like pretty good, um, but let's get a final message from this. Yeah, you're fine. And then it feels like I'm back on the like really long uploads too. That one like 3 hour video. I was like, yep, here we go. So the last cards, it's the Bear and the Anchor, 15 and 35, difference of 20. 20 is judgment. With the Bear and the Anchor, this is an energy of hibernation, but it's an energy of something that's ready to thaw. It's an energy of something that's ready to emerge from the cave. It's also the energy of something that could be reaching the point where it is a little malnourished because it ate for the winter, but it's like it's in the cave longer than what it prepared for, longer than what it ate for. And so it's going to reach the point where it's almost like the bear's hunger is going to start competing with the bear's fear of, for whatever reason, why it's still in the cave. And in that space, it's like hunger might be the thing that actually gets the bear to leave. Because for some reason, it's like we've anchored ourselves in this period of like winter and this period of hibernation. Stork 17 is at the bottom of the deck. Oh my gosh, there are baby storks in here. I've never noticed the baby storks at the bottom. What? How have I never noticed the little baby storks? Storks, it's a card of change, but it's change due to like expansion, and it's also change that comes with a sort of challenge, right? Because storks bring babies. And a baby is a change. A lot of times it can be a welcome addition, but also like if there's a pair of new parents, it may bring challenges that they didn't necessarily anticipate. Because when you have a child, like you never know. Like you don't know if your child is going to be just like you or nothing like you, or like what they're going to be into, or it's like a mystery box, right? You open it up, and a lot of times some people can like be like, oh, well, like, this is what I wanted you to be, therefore this is what you will be. I had one friend. So I use my laptop, Zelda, and on like, so if you have under a certain amount of subscribers and watch time and stuff like that, you can go live on like the full YouTube site, but not like YouTube mobile. But if you download a third party app like Streamlabs, you can use Streamlabs to go live on there. So it's like this mystery box. You never know what it's going to be, but some parents try to sort of force a being onto someone. Oh, the friend that I have, it's like she was under a lot of stress and she performed poorly one semester. And she was so afraid of like her dad. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm glad that, like, I had my honor roll period, but like, I'm glad I have parents where it's like I can make a misstep and not fear like being disowned or being punished or like losing support. But I know that that's not everyone's experience. This is the nine of hearts, no, nine of spades into the 10 of wands. Also, with the end of a hibernatory period, it comes in energy of like needing to refuel. And especially after this like anchor is lifted, there may be a window of like acceleration where things move a little quickly, maybe a little too quickly, but it's almost like catching up for lost time in a way. But it's like energetically. So it feels like there were things that you were ready for, that you are ready for, that you sort of like kept yourself from. But when you release that resistance, it almost might be, it's like you released inadvertently, just like how she like inadvertently takes a second piece before she finishes the first one. It's like you inadvertently have already like, if your blockages were numbered like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? And you've been stuck at one for a long time, but you've already done like worked on 2, 3, and maybe even 4. Then it's like when you finally clear one, then it shoots you all the way to like 5. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, like, so slow down. Like, what? This is a lot. But it's almost that energy of like you've already worked beyond like what your current sort of resistance or limitation is. Are my lights flickering or am I going like crazy? Um, or am I like blinking? It's like that's that energy here. And it may be a little quicker than you might have anticipated. It might be a little more. Yeah, my lights are doing something, right? Okay, yeah. Is it this light? Oh my gosh. I'm like, what is happening? Excuse me, sir. So that's this. Again, folklore says that if a woman eating bread and butter inadvertently takes a second piece before finishing the first, she will marry soon. And then she might be like, I don't even know anybody. What do you mean I'm gonna marry? Like, oh yeah, like, come on, it's folklore. And then there's this whirlwind, synchronistic, what's the word? Starts with an S. There was a movie. I almost got it. What is the word? It starts with an S. It's when things just like work out. Things just happen. Ah, I almost have it. It's in my brain, but I can't. I want that word. What's that word? It's not synchronistic. Serendipity. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. When things just happen like serendipitously, and like there's so much serendipity and synchronicity, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like I actually got married soon. I thought that it was folklore, but maybe there's something to it. Serendipitous. Yes, and serendipity. Thank you. I'm like, what is that word? It's like but if we have a lot of resistance and blockages, it doesn't allow for serendipity to take place. it doesn't allow for those like crazy synchronistic alignments to happen because we sort of like we stop it and we pull back every step along the way. And like when we pulled around the energy of the um retrogrades, there was a lot of like clearing those things that hold us back. And it reminds me of what Abraham Hicks would say when it's like, our natural state is to rise, our natural state is flow, but we have so much resistance that keeps us sort of under the surface. But as soon as you let that go, it's like you shoot right up. And maybe, again, like maybe we're going to let go of a little bit more than we thought we let go of. And then it's like, oh, that's crazy. The Five of Wands card came out. This is interesting. This Five of Wands reminds me of the Ace of Wands because in this Five of Wands, he's holding this thing right here and it's matching the sun. It's almost like he's causing the sun to rise. It reminds me of Zelda. I was just talking about playing Ocarina of Time the other day, and whenever like you have an ocarina that can control the day cycle. So whenever it hits night in that game, I play the little song and I immediately set it today because I get scared at night. Things just pop up and I get stressed. So I was like, I can just eliminate this by, keeping it in the daytime. But sometimes I guess, especially in the vein of shadow work, we need to experience the night because of what it has the power to reveal. I've also just noticed that there's a pretty big fish in a net here. So maybe the sun was bait? There's an energy here. It's like be careful, I guess, like not to rush yourself along your process. It's like don't be so like stressed about like being in the cave. Like don't have so much cave anxiety that you force yourself out of the cave in the middle of winter. Because it's like, well, the lakes are frozen over and the insects are gone. So there's no salmon and there's no bees, no fish, no honey. Like, what's the bear gonna eat? Because it feels like that's a diurnal fish, and so they summon the sun to catch the fish, and it's like they go out in the middle of the night because there's less people out, maybe, or they don't want people to see that they have the power to like summon the sun. I don't know. I'm actually gonna read the card, but or that might be the feeling that we get when all of that synchronistic serendipitous, like when all of that begins to happen, because it's again, it kind of sort of feels like we've cleared more than we think. There were just sort of key things that kept us in place where we were, but beyond that, we're good. It reminds me of like maybe someone who has like they think that they have a learning disability, but in reality they've just never had a teacher who took the patience to learn how they learn and then who taught the material in the way that they learn. And so then it's like it only takes one person to have that patience or one person to be like, you're not all of these things that you think you are. You're not all of these things that you've been convinced that you are. And you think this like it's a very logical train of like there are very logical reasons why you have become who you have become or why you think the way you think. But let me show you how much more you actually are. Let me show you who you really are. And it may be things that you're not quite ready to see or accept in self, or there may still be like, because there's going to be a period of like learning to accept this new truth and learning to let go of the old narrative, or in the space of allowing that narrative to change, in the space of receiving. And in the beginning, you may find it easier to completely refute things of the past and to try to fully embrace the new. But you may come upon a point where you kind of sort of have to do both. You have to accept that the past happened. And because the past happened, there was a certain way that you've become, even if that way that you became was outside of who you are. But you may find in the reconciliation of those things, you find strength or you find something that you never would have had outside of those experiences. And I guess it's a tragic reality that sometimes we don't know how strong we are until we have to be that strong. Like honestly, like I'm the type of person where it's like if my life could be easy and if I could experience no challenge, then not that I want it at this point, but it's like if I could learn without having to go through that, like when my mom would tell me, like, I hope you're not so stubborn or hard headed that you have to learn things the hard way. I hope that you can just listen. And I've learned to listen in a lot of ways, but I also understand that sometimes we have to go through things to, get where it is that where we want to go or where we need to go. But maybe these people are fish doctors, right? Maybe this is a fish like maybe this is a freshwater fish that somehow found its way in salt water. And so they're going out to save it before its environment like kills it essentially. Or it could be a saltwater fish in freshwater. And so they're going out to catch it in the wee hours of the daytime or night. I don't know, is it rising or setting? So they can guide it back to where it is actually supposed to go. But for the fish, it's like this is the traumatic experience. For the fish, being caught in the net is where the fear rises because it's like there may be like it may be like a little hard to breathe in the environment, or it's like you may feel a little extra heavy. Maybe it's a gravitational pull that you're not used to, or it's like an elevation that you're not used to. It's like this fish may not understand that its environment is like slowly chipping away at it. And so when it encounters this very like abrupt and sudden like net, then it freaks out. But when it's released in this new space, it's like, oh, like, okay. So like I don't have like my medical issues aren't that serious. I was just living in an environment that didn't vibe with how my body is set up, right? Maybe it's like it reminds me of people who go to Arizona because they have allergies. But in Arizona, it's like, I don't know, there's no pollen in Arizona. I don't know. But it's like, if you go to Arizona, then your allergies aren't that bad. And like people who have asthma in some places may go to other places and like be fine. The golden craft of dream consciousness sails into the waters of the unconscious as the dreamer seeks to plummet the mysteries of the depths. The spirit manifests as the ancient voice, bringing light to lead the way through the challenges, the winds that blow through the golden sails of time. Here, one is carried beyond waking consciousness to the inner voice of wisdom. In the golden craft beyond waking, the traveler moves into the waters of the unconscious, the dreams, wherein all truth lies. The craft carries the dreamer, fisher of depths, inner communicant, who quests for the golden fish of knowledge. There is strength in this journey, energy of healing and blessings, as it is a journey in service to waking consciousness, yielding new knowledge to aid in unlocking the many doors of opportunity and adventure. The gifts it yields help direct and guide life's journey towards a fruitful goal. This is a golden journey, for within the waters of unconscious are the keys which open the doors of inspiration and knowledge, sharing with the seeker insight and direction. And then the key popped out. So, just fair warning, this is going to be a longer video because, like, I'm moving into the second part now. And so, did it just do it again? I might just turn the light off. Mm. And yeah, it's blinking. Okay. All right. Yeah. So the Five of Wands is here because, again, like, there is a space of something that isn't necessarily comfortable. Now, I used to like the Five of Wands more than the Five of Swords because I'm like, both sort of carry an energy of conflict, but at least with the wand, like, you'll be bruised and battered, but you won't have any limbs missing. Not that one is necessarily too much better than the other because, neither one is great. Um, But I've also seen a Five of Wands card before. It's in, I forget what the deck is, but my best friend has it. And it's like there are five brothers who are like basically like roughhousing. So it is a pretty like heavy and combative energy, but it's in like good spirit. It's in good sport. It's like when you'll see like lions who like play rough with each other, but then they go on to like hunt, like prey. And it's like the skills that they learn when they play with each other, they then take out into the world in a more in a different way. So I'm gonna timestamp this, and then I'm gonna get into whatever this salamander is, and it may be like related. It may not be related. I don't know. It may be completely different. Probably won't be. The Dreamer of Wands. Oh, look! There's the fish. There's the dreamer. Maybe this is where the fish is released. And it reminds me, bottom of the deck is the Lady of Swords. It reminds me a while ago. There was something that I discovered because I'm the type of person who can get comfortable and who can settle in a space beyond my time in that space. Because, it's like I said, if I could not experience challenge, then a while ago, that was like what I would prefer. And so I get really comfortable and kind of stagnant in spaces that I didn't belong in. Or I would be encouraged to like use my voice or to like have a presence or to do something. And so I would like encounter a lot of friction. I showered and I did not put lotion on my hands. So if I'm a little ashy, that's why. And I wash my hair, so my lips might be a little dry anyway. I encountered a lot of friction in spaces, and it would be easy to be like to get riled up, but eventually at a certain point, it's like I'm encountering friction in this space because I'm overstaying my welcome. I'm encountering friction because I'm getting too comfortable. I'm getting too still. I'm getting too stagnant. Like I don't stop here. I need to keep going. I need to go beyond. I need to do more. I need to not be so comfortable. And that's what that Five of Wands leading into the Dreamer of Wands is reminding me of, right? We get caught in the net at the five by these fishermen who we assume are probably going to eat us, who are going to fillet us and do whatever. But they're actually navigating us to here. And look, this water is all blue. In the Five of Wands, it's like there was blue and red in the water. Something about this environment is much more suited to who we are. And all of that we felt was to, it's like when you force something through something, it's like it builds up pressure. It's like it's not like a snake eating a mouse, but like if a snake ate a mouse and you wanted to get the mouse out of the snake, then you might have to like massage it out. Like if something is stuck in a hose and you got to massage it out, right? Cool. And the salmon of knowledge keeps coming to. Ooh! Well, let me I'm copy and paste this real quick so I can look into that. Thank you. And the thing about salmon is that they swim upstream. Ben McCool. I saw a video about how to pronounce Irish names or how to just pronounce stuff in Irish a while ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with the name Aoife. But also I was like, I don't know how to pronounce anything. The salmon story figures prominently in the boyhood deeds of Finn, which was the early adventures of Finn McCool. An ordinary salmon ate 9 hazelnuts that fell into the well of wisdom from 9 hazel trees that surrounded the well. Oh, what? Oh, I wish I knew more about this. Because I would do the spread, like, I would do the salamander off of this. The first person to eat of its flesh would in turn gain this knowledge. Spent 7 years fishing for the salmon. With instructions to cook it, but on no account to eat any of it. Let's burn finger to ease the pain. Oh my gosh! That's the dream I had, maybe. Because I had a dream the other night that like I basically summoned my higher self and it was above me. And it was that one drop. I was like, oh my gosh, it just spit on me and it imparted all of this on me. But it's so like I'm reading it. So the poet, I don't know how to pronounce this, Finnegas, I'm gonna butcher all of these and I apologize in advance. Spent 7 years fishing for the salmon. Finally, Finn caught the salmon and gave the fish to another Finn or Fiend, his servant and son of Cool, I'm assuming, with instructions to cook it, but on no account to eat any of it. Fiend or Finya, I don't know how to pronounce these. I feel so bad now. Cooked the salmon, turning it over and over. But when he touched the fish with his thumb to see if it was cooked, he burnt his finger on a drop of hot cooking fish fat. He sucked on his burned finger to ease the pain, but little did he know that all of the salmon's wisdom had been concentrated into that one drop of fish fat. When he brought the cooked meal to Finnegas, his master saw that the boy's eyes shone with a previously unseen wisdom. He asked Finn if he had eaten any of the salmon. Answering no, the boy explained what had happened. Then Finnegas realized that he received the energy of the salmon, so gave him the rest of the fish to eat. I love that. Ate the salmon and in doing so gained all the knowledge of the world. Throughout the rest of his life, he could draw upon this knowledge merely by biting his thumb. The deep knowledge and wisdom gained from the salmon of knowledge allowed him to become the leader of the Fianna or Finya, the famed heroes of Irish myth. What I love about that story is that it's like Finn. Okay, so it is Finn. What I love about the story is that Finnegas didn't have the servant, like he didn't kill the servant. Like, how dare you take the wisdom of this fish that I was gonna save for myself? Fina. Fina, it is Fina. Okay. Because I remembered that it's like sometimes when you see two vowels together, only one of them is pronounced. And I was like, so Fionna or Fianna, like the A is probably the silent one. Fina. Okay. I knew a little bit and then just like lost it. But I love that like he didn't have the servant boy killed and that he allowed him to eat the rest of the fish. Like, yes, like more of that, please. Well, yeah, I had a dream. I don't know if you saw it, but I had a dream that I was like in bed and I was like, well, if I visualize myself, like I want to meeting my higher self or meeting myself is something that I want to do again now that I've lived a little bit of life after the time I had the Pokemon battle or whatever. And it's something that I wanted to do, but it's been in the back of my mind. So sometimes when I realize um that like I'm dreaming, it'll be like this thing in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, I can finally do this. And so that's how it materialized. And I remember like there was one drop that just like hit my forehead. And I was like, did it spit on me? But then I was talking about how like when you filter or purify something, if it's one drop or if it's a filtration process that's so slow that you get like drop by drop, it's probably highly purified, probably highly concentrated. And then this story, like I'm not gonna say that, I received all the wisdom of the world, but we did literally just see the fish card with the dog. The dog, the fish. That's why I was like, I feel like something about this fish isn't like financial, but thank you, Amanda, for being here. That was gorgeous. And so yeah, now the fish is in this space and like there's the white dove that symbolizes like the peace and harmony it could feel. Maybe this is a little bit of it's a different fish. So instead of eating the 9 hazelnuts, it navigates its own internal and external environment to this place of peace where it can receive from the divine. And whatever incarnation of the divine this is, wisdom. Now, in this, it's probably something more that's taught than something like ingested. It also reminds me of Minos' son Glaucus, I think, who was like sick or something, and he was told that somebody could heal his son, and then before he left or before he was freed, he was only freed under the condition that this wise teacher teach the son of King Minos or Minos all the knowledge of divination. And so he taught the boy all the knowledge of divination. But before he left, he told the boy to spit in his mouth. And when the boy did that, he lost all of it. He lost all of that knowledge and like spit. And so it's like he fulfilled his promise, but it wasn't something. Yeah, exactly. So, I didn't expect that. But I guess also like a lot of times I use the Tarot Apocalypsis. I'll see the Ace of Swords, and in that Ace of Swords, it's like all the runes are sort of floating about. And oh, look, the Dreamer of Pentacles has that keyhole and a rooster and a crab. I haven't seen a lot of the cards in this deck. I haven't actually like flipped through and looked at these. Who am I looking for? The Ouroboros. Okay. Um, what was I talking about? I already forgot what I was talking about. Oh, when I see something, the runes and the Ace of Swords, my brain is working. The runes in the Ace of Swords, it feels like, Odin hanged himself from the world tree to read those. But it feels like life is constantly sort of trying to give it to us, but we may not be paying attention. Also, the last time I saw the King of Swords, he had two little, and it was Odin in that deck. He has two little like floating thingies, and it's like, oh, this feels like two runes that are specifically his or that haven't been revealed yet. And we grow into this knowledge and awareness of what they do or what they are, or we learn to utilize them in a different way. So I'm going to ask Siri to pick a number between 1 and 15 because I don't know what deck to use with this deck. And my favorite virtual assistant, hey Siri, choose a number between 1 and 15.
A random number between 1 and 15 is 12.
It's 12. I don't know why you can't hear Siri. Hey, 12 is Pisces. There's more fish. Okay, how do I count these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Guess what deck I'm going to be using? If not the deck I was just talking about, I'm going to be using the Tarot Apocalypsis. So if we see the King of Swords or the Ace of Swords, know that I've already mentioned the runes. Should I go looking? And just to see what's... Actually, I will. Before I go into this, I'm going to go looking. Thank you so much again, Amanda. That's awesome. I have this... So one of my ancestors, it was a several greats grand uncle, was actually our grand uncle. Yeah. He was 3/4 Cherokee Indian and 1/4 Irish. And so every now and then I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, what's the story of like them meeting? And it's always the story of like, or what comes, it's the story of like an appreciation for nature or in communion with natural spirits. And then that's how they sort of form that bond and connection because of whatever connection she would have had to nature, back growing up. And maybe she was taught some of those, or maybe like those druidic things or the things that are like were never recorded, but that were passed down. Maybe she had some of that knowledge and it lined up with the knowledge of nature that he had, or maybe like he was a shaman or something, and then they had some babies. I don't know. I wish I could like go back and actually find out. I wish I could get a name. Yeah. Okay. And I was just talking. I was like, I wish I could trace my Irish roots. I remember one time after I found that out, I was like, I told one of my brothers, I guess he didn't go to the family reunion, but the person who told us is like, she was the family historian. So in my mother's family, there's always been someone who keeps track of all of the births and all of the deaths and like when people move and things like that. And so they have records that go back a while, like goes back to us being like Cherokee or Native American and Irish. I'm like, what? When did I become black? When did that happen? um, and I like my grandmother inherited the stuff after that aunt passed, and I don't know if anyone's keeping track of it now. Um, but I was talking about how I want to go back and like find like who that person was. And I remember one day I told my little brother, he was like, yeah, right. Like we don't have any Irish in us. And I was like, well, if we're not Irish, can we do like, could I do this? And I did like a little like river dance. It was probably terrible, but he was like, oh my gosh, we are Irish. So it was good enough to convince him. But what am I shoveling this for? The eight, oops. Is that judgment? Yeah, the Eight of Wands, Judgment, Prince of Cups, Six of Cups, Three of Cups. Prince of Cups, Six of Cups, and Three of Cups. This is an energy, it's a reunion energy, but it's one that has had years, like this is years spent apart, maybe even lifetimes, coming back together. Yeah. With the spiritual practices, whether druidic, shamanic, etc., all were turned into source exactly. And so maybe, especially after like this judgment, also there's some lightning in this Three of Cups that I've never noticed. Oh wait, it's not lightning. It's the cloud. It's the clouds being illuminated at the top. So like there's this Eight of Wands judgment. We're in a space of needing something right now. And so there are these maybe like even ancient tribes that are coming back together. The Prince of Cups is like bringing them together over like maybe like lifetimes. Bottom of the deck is the Four of Wands for a purpose. So a few more shuffles. Actually, I'll just get into it. If it comes out, it comes out. All right. So the Salamander Spread. It's an 11 card spread, 6 and 5, based on the energy of the Two of Pentacles and the Three of Wands. So the Two of Pentacles is about balance. And the balance may be between like this world and another, right? The natural and the spiritual. The Three of Wands is a card of manifestation, but it's also a card of awaiting an arrival. Let me get some water. Ugh, gross. Ooh, okay. So how am I gonna do this? I'll just pick. Or should they drop? We'll do. Oh, well, I'll take you. I'll set this up here though. We got a mystery card to be revealed at the end. It came up. Oh, there's another one. Okay. Or maybe I should put these on the table. It made a noise, but it was still face down, so I wasn't able to see it. So we have two mystery cards at the end. And let's see. This is one. Ooh! We see the fish again. The fish are back. 2 and 3. 4, 5, 6. Bottom of the deck is the Moon Chariot. So the Ace of Cups was the first card out. And I noticed the dove that we saw in the Dreamer of Wands, and actually there's two fish now. These two fish, it's like there's the fish that from the story of Finn McCool, the one that ate the hazelnuts, the 7 hazelnuts from the 7 trees that grew around the area of knowledge. Oh, look, that might be one of the hazelnuts in the water right there. That the fish it dropped into the water and the fish ate it. But in this story, it's almost like instead of that fish remaining a fish, something about the knowledge that it acquired allowed it to be more. So now it's like out of the water. And what would a fish do with all that knowledge? And a fish with that much knowledge, how would it ever be caught? So there's something that the fish knew 9 nuts. Yeah. Where did the number 7 come from? Because I was like, it was 9 nuts. Oh, he spent 7 years fishing for the salmon. Okay. There you go. That's why. It's like, how would a fish that was that wise ever be caught? The fish knew that that wisdom was to be passed to Finn. And so it allowed itself to be caught by someone who wasn't Finn, knowing that Finn would be the one to prepare it, knowing that Finn would never eat it. I'm assuming Finn is of the character that like, if he's told not to eat the fish, he won't eat the fish. And so then it's also like, well, how do we give the knowledge to Finn if he would never eat? Like there are so many things that transpired that with spirits like omni- omnipresent, omniscient vision set into motion this whole chain of like events to get this wisdom to Finn. It's almost like I don't want to say it was all to give Finn the wisdom that he would have. But maybe it was because it's like, well, what is the fish going to do with it? The salmon of knowledge. Like, what is the fish going to do? What is the salmon going to do with all that knowledge? Not that the salmon couldn't have impacts, but it feels like the whole thing was like orchestrated. And it's almost like if Finn would have eaten the fish, he wouldn't have gotten the knowledge. It reminds me of the the Sorcerer's Stone in Harry Potter. It was like only the one person who wasn't looking for it would find it. The one person who wasn't like fishing for the fish, or the one person who wouldn't eat it at any opportunity that they could, he was the one that was given the knowledge. And then the Two of Wands and the Six of Pentacles are here. The Ace of Swords actually came out in reverse. So I left it under this Ace of Cups. So they kind of look like this. And there's a little bit of like a snake imagery in this cup potentially, and then like the snake is coiled around her. I don't know. I'll see. I said the ace. This is the Five of Cups. This is the Five of Cups. Sorry. Why my light stopped flickering? Yeah. Whew. Okay. And then the Hierophant and the Seven of Wands came out. Look at those guys. And then the last card is the Lady of Wands. Five of Cups, Ace of Swords in reverse, Lady of Wands. Oh. So with the Ace of Swords in reverse sitting above the Lady of Wands, like that's the imagery that they hold. Yeah, there is some kind of connection here between her and her higher self. But it's like it goes back to like that the higher heart, the lower heart, and the divine heart. It's like it's pouring down into her. All right. Now it's time to get 5 of these. I don't know why that scrolled up like that. Now these actually aren't numbered. And I kind of want to leave these a mystery. Because I'm going to lose it if the Ace of Swords or the King of Swords pops out. So, wait, why am I doing it this way? Make sure these are all upright. And I might do a fair amount of reading this time. Again, like these don't have any meanings. So we're flowing with it. It's just a skeleton, this spread. There's no I should do another build with me soon. Last time I did one though, the last few of them have been weird. Like one of them was like about past life stuff. It was like past life accomplishments that were meant to be built upon in this life. And then there was another one. I forget where that one went, but it was only like 2 cards. And I was like, what? How am I supposed to do this? Like, this is energy that I'm not certified. I'm not like QHHT certified or, I only saw Dolores Cannon in the video. I ain't read none of her books. Not that I necessarily need it, but if that is the path that opens before me, it is the path that I shall take. Okay. Bottom of the deck is the Ten of Cups. Love that energy. There's family here. There's lineage here. And in the back, it's giving a little bit of a Vestal Virgin's energy. Ace of Pentacles is behind this Ten of Cups. Because of the flame and the people sort of around it, they're not necessarily attending it. It feels like a line of like priestesses or something like that, or shamans, or spiritually connected individuals. Okay. So if we were but certification would help me be like it's a cop out. Honestly, it's just like me, like, oh, I don't have this, so like, feel free to not take this, or like, that's my excuse to not dive any deeper into this. But I feel like the Akashic records it's a frequency that I sort of, in some ways, naturally aligned to. Like my first lucid dream, I wanted to know the story of me. At that point in my life, I felt so disconnected from who I was, or felt like I forgot like everything that made me who I am. So I was like, I want to read my story. And so in my first lucid dream, I'm outside of this house. At the time, I think I was in college. I was on campus, I think. Or was it high school? No, it was a while. I think I was on campus. And it's like I turned around. I was like, oh, okay, like I want to read my story. So I turned around. I was like, I need somebody to teach me how to navigate this lucid space. I turn around and the person is there. I'm like, okay, I want to read my story. It's like, okay. So then I turn around and I'm in this giant library and nobody is there. It looked like a library for giants. Like if I was an ant in a human library, like that's the sort of like the scale. But like all of the bookshelves are empty. And I'm like, I don't even know how to navigate this. So I was like, okay, I need somebody to show me around. So I turn around in the dream and then the person is there. And they don't really say anything, but they guide me through rows and rows and rows of empty bookshelves to this one place. that has like a student desk. And like there's the desk down here, and there's like a little bookshelf part above, and there's a few books up top. And again, it was still like fairly large, but it wasn't as big as everything else. And I picked one of the few books out. And of course, I immediately go to the end of the story and I couldn't read it. I'm like, what does this say? I don't know. So I guess I'll go to the beginning. And I went to the beginning of the book and I could read it. It was in like Latin or something. I had taken Latin in high school. So Latin is like floating around in my subconscious mind. Also, like Russ, he uploaded the video in front of the thing yesterday. I was trying to read it. I know it says like the year of 1925. I know it was MCMXXV, and then it said Deus Nobis Haec Otis Fake It. And I was like, I know that like Deus Nobis is our God. I know Hic Haec Hoc is like here or there. I know Fake It is like to make. I was like, what is Otis? It was either Otis or Otia. And it's leisure. And I was like, oh, like I was like, I feel like Otis is like a word that I know, but like I don't know. But also we read the Iliad and Virgil in third and fourth year. So it could have been anywhere. Anyway, Latin was floating around in my brain, and the beginning of the book was in Latin. And then I woke up because I freaked out about waking up. Right. So anyway. And then I've been to a library a few times since then. The only time it was like as empty and as like, oh my gosh, was the first time. After that, it was like more populated. And I was like, okay. So yeah, my soul knows, but the person doesn't want to dive into that maybe fully just yet. It is something that I want to expand into, um, almost like just to do it, but I don't know if like I necessarily want to be like an Akashic reader or like take somebody else through the records. Um, but that sort of functionality is it's built into a lot of the spaces that are there. My little like spiritual mental spaces. So and it kind of just sort of sits there, honestly. So I could, and maybe that was a little push to be like, okay, it's time to go into the records, Patrick. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, how about we not? But also at that time, I was like, I need to focus on school. I need to focus on getting my degree before I do all this. And then I got my degree, and now I guess it's time to do some more. Anyway, okay. So the Ouroboros is here. And I chose this card because it's the Salamander Spread. And it looks more like a salamander than a snake in this deck. But this is also, it's like Ouroboros from a time before the events that happened in the Garden of Eden happened that caused the snake to lose its legs. The snake had not yet been cursed to slither on its belly, right? Only to later gain its wings and the Quetzalcoatl or Quetzalcoatl. Again, it's like that whole ordeal was a part of it. When the snake has wings, it can navigate in a way that it can't with legs. It just has to endure that moment or that time of slithering. And snakes have pelvic bones. And it's like, if snakes don't have legs, why do they have pelvises? Like, what's up with that? Vestigial structures. Okay, where am I going to start? I'm actually going to start up top. And then I'm going to go around it. So the card in the middle is the Nine of Wands. There are a lot of cards, or there's like this, there's a very present feeling of lineage here. Also, going back to Finn McCool and the Salmon of Knowledge, it's like, well, how do we get this knowledge into sort of this individual, right? Because we're not necessarily all going to go out and like find a fish that ate the hazelnuts that, you know, has all the knowledge and have someone else sort of like fish it up and tell us to cook it. And so there's an energy of lineage, there's an energy of the moon here. Also, there may be an energy of a gift that is inherited, but it might skip generations. See, this is that like it's quiet. Everything is quiet now. It's like shh, we're in the library potentially. Oh, I've never noticed this. There's this golden cord here. It's like a golden umbilical cord that flows into the child. I've never noticed that golden cord before. And I'm so tempted to read the book, but I don't know if it would help. So this is in the middle where we have the Five of Cups, the Ace of Swords in reverse, and the Lady of Wands. As with everything, take this as it resonates. I feel like I gotta throw out all of my disclaimers right now, so take it as it resonates. I'm a little bit of a weirdo. My Mercury is in Pisces in the 12th house and it's retrograde. Right? But it feels like a long time ago, there was a couple or there was a pair of ancestors that asked for something. And you, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, you are the answer to the prayer of your ancestors. And all of this, again, it's like it lies within you. You have to connect to it, and then it'll be downloaded into you. And the heart space is the most important space right here. The heart is open and aligned. Also, there's a connection to nature around. Also, in this card, it's like a little bit of an ability to affect seasons because it's like it's spring right here, but it's autumn back here. And it's like we see some greenery back here. So, like, that's a different season because it's like all the leaves are on the ground here and like they're different colors. But it's like, so something of that nature. And then it's the question again, it's like, well, how do we get all of that knowledge in one place? And so with the 10 of Cups at the bottom of the deck and with this 9 of Wands, but let's go with the 9 of Wands because it's here and I don't need to go to the 10 of Cups for this message. It's almost like generation after generation after generation. I don't know how much time passed, but more and more and more that knowledge was passed through and it was built upon through experiences. And it's almost like a genetic memory. So, like, even because again, it feels like something that you wouldn't accept a label. You're just weird and wonderful. What? I didn't know that. So every time I'm like, I'm weird. Potentially accurate. Thank you. It's like it's something that could skip generations. But this golden umbilical cord, it's reminding me of DNA. But it's DNA in its natural state. So whenever you read DNA, DNA typically exists in that tightly compressed sort of like that shape that we see like our chromosomes, right? But whenever you read DNA, whenever it's time to make something from DNA, it has to decompress, it has to unwind in order for something to go in and then to read the chain of amino acid sequences. And so it's like there's this golden sort of strain. And honestly, it could be on a X. It could be on an X chromosome. It could be in the mitochondria. Because I know Russ, I think it was Russ, he was saying something recently about the mothers or something like that. And I was like, in our like we have half of our father's DNA and half of our mother's DNA all over our body. The only exception is in the mitochondria. Mitochondrial DNA is purely the mother's. And so there is something that exists within every single cell of our bodies that is purely matrilineal. And it's the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. It literally powers our bodies. It literally gives us the energy to like move. The father's DNA determines the gender or the sex. It determines the sex of the baby. And so it's like there's this golden sort of cord within you that goes back generations. And it's, again, it feels like this information would be expounded upon and built upon in the DNA. So regardless if it lied dormant for generations or whatever, it's there. And it's like from whenever this request happened to spirit, or from whenever someone in that line received a message that one of their offsprings, no matter how many generations removed, would be the one to be born into that family and to do something. And so maybe they made it their duty to impart wisdom. And again, like line after line or time after time, there would be one who was born who would expand upon the gift. And you would inherit all of it. But it requires you to connect to something in order to like really get it. I don't know what this is, but now like my ears are starting. Sometimes my ears will burn up here, and I don't know what that means yet. I was like, that means I'm somebody heard the truth or something. I don't know. So now let's get on this axis. The lovers in the Hierophant. It's like, remember when I was talking about how like I like to fantasize that like that ancestral pair, like they share like some kind of nature or natural spiritual connection. Like maybe one was like a shaman and the other was a druid, or they had those lineages. And so when those lineages combined, it was an opportunity to like bridge this sort of realm of knowledge with this realm of knowledge, but to bring it into the same line that would still like over many, many, many years eventually become me. But there are so many, like our ancestry goes back so far that there could have been so many different like meetings. It's almost like when Odin married Freya, and Freya was the one who knew the Sadir magic. And so like was it a political wedding so that Odin could like get that power? Maybe. Odin was Odin after all. But regardless, it's like there were things that were sort of like combined or put together as the line continued. This is sitting with the Seven of Wands. So the Seven of Wands was with the lovers. And I'll put the Six of Pentacles with the Hierophant. So there's this 7-6-6-5 energy. So it is a little bit of a stutter step. Right. It's not 7-6-5, it's 7-6-6-5, 5-4-4-3, 3-2-2-1. And then like boom, like you're there, right? Maybe. Honestly, the energy here, it's like either there was a, maybe weird isn't the right word to use. Either there was a not so great ancestor, or like situations and circumstances forced somebody to, because this card, it reminds me of that dream that I had where it was like I was a little kid, I guess witch for lack of a better word, person who could use like natural magics, and my magic were, it was like a magical flowering. and also like fireworks, because fireworks are pretty, I guess. But hanabi, fireworks. Hanabi is fireworks, right? It's like a fire flower in the sky. It boom, and then it expands into something. Anyway, and like by the end of the dream, like the house was getting attacked. We lived in like a pretty nice house, and it was like, oh, the people are coming for us. And I was like, why? We bless the fields. We bring abundance. Like we care for them. We nurture them. We use our gifts and our abilities for good. Like, why do they turn against us? And in the dream, I was a child, and they didn't have time to explain to me why we were about to be killed. So my mother told my older brother to like take me out of the secret entrance and to like flee. But like maybe it was a little bit of there's some kind of like it's like this connection happened, but then it was broken, right? Because we moved from like these two together to now it's purely like all of the masculine energies passing it down. And it's like, well, what happened to this feminine? Maybe they had to say goodbye. I don't know. Also, it kind of reminds me of Holes and how Stanley Yonat's his great grand whoever was supposed to carry somebody up the mountain and he never did it. And because he didn't do it, Madame Zeroni, he was supposed to carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain, but because he didn't do it, it's like his family was cursed until so many generations later. Like we see Stanley and they always like curse that like that greedy grandfather or whoever who like didn't follow through with what he was supposed to do and like was the reason for that family's misfortune. So the his side of it, like the dude side, they retained that through the space of a trauma or an inconvenience that was caused. But Hector like didn't know, and so Stanley ends up inadvertently carrying Hector up the mountain. He inadvertently ends up fulfilling a prophecy. And maybe that goes back to like that word inadvertently keeps coming up today, right? It's like the woman who inadvertently eats the second piece before finishing the first piece will be married soon. It's like through a series of happenings, through the fulfillment of something that was sort of maybe a promise that was made a long time ago. It just kind of sort of happens and then it brings something to fruition. I'm not going to hold too fast to these. So then the Nine of Pentacles and the World card are the other diagonal. And so now we see these energies like ready to embrace again. But there's some change and some evolution that's happened along the way. I feel like this Nine of Pentacles energy is playing into especially like this Ace of Swords and this Lady of Wands. Because it's almost like we have to be this sort of sufficient. We have to be this stable in our own sort of lives and reality, I guess, that we put ourselves in a position to seek that which lies beyond. To seek that which lies beyond, like can I get more money? Like, can I get this person? Like, I want my experience to be this like luxurious sort of thing. But there is something deeper and something more that lies beyond all of that. Oh, this was here. I was like, where did I put that world card? We have the constellations of the fixed stars. And then we have this Nine of Pentacles. This Nine of Pentacles energy, it also feels like one of waiting, right? Because here's this side. We have the Lovers and the World, where they're about to embrace again. But on the other side, we have this feminine energy that is spending all of this time. Like Pentacles represent years, spending all, like, here's the Nine of Pentacles, here's the Nine of Wands. Like, that's the difference in how this energy has sort of just been like chilling there. And this Hierophant energy is the one, like, that is going through these sort of like reiterations. Like, each aura is different. It gets closer and closer to gold. It may be yellow, but it's gold today. First, it starts in the realm of like this very cerebral, like, what is truth, what is knowledge. Then it works into the heart. And once that knowledge and truth gets filtered through the heart, it gives birth to this golden aura that is more divine in nature. But here's this, like, Lady of Pentacles sitting with all of these golden pentacles, almost like she's reached, and like she has a little bit of that. You can see it especially up in the hair, like the little bit of gold that surrounds her loops, right? She's been in this space, but he's sort of coming to this space. Now, this could be the ancestry of humanity, like going all the way back to Adam and Eve. And maybe that was that Lilith energy, going back to how, like, Adam wronged Lilith and how Lilith had to go out on her own. And how it's almost like, again, it's almost like at that point in time, Lilith and Adam were their own individuals. And they fell out of alignment in some way. Honestly, to me, it's been feeling like either Lilith stayed in Eden or Lilith made it back to Eden a lot quicker than Adam. So Adam was cast out of Eden because of whatever weird stuff he had going on, right? Because he was all this, but couldn't be any of this that would subsequently lead to that. And so he gets cast out of Eden, but he can't be out there by himself because, he can't procreate by himself. And so he's given Eve, but he can't be given anything more. Like, he can't be given anything on the equivalent of Lilith, who sort of already has it figured out, because then the same thing will happen. And so what happens is Eve is made of Adam, because, they'll be like on the similar level, they'll be a lot more compatible. And even if there is some disruption, like, they're made for each other to go out and to procreate more. So that on the Adam side of things, it sets this very, 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 very long journey into motion, where that original masculine energy has to find its own divinity, has to sort of come to terms with that. Like, we are the children of Adam. And then it's almost like in that space, like, Adam twists it into like this, like, Eve is like, or Lilith was this, like, this demoness and blah blah blah, and then Eve ate the apple. So it's like, okay, so when it was Lilith and Adam, it was all Lilith. When it was Eve and Adam, it was all Eve. It's like, okay, Adam, well, when are you going to take responsibility and accountability for your own actions? Because Adam was the one who was told not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eve wasn't told. In the stories, Eve didn't have to abide by that. That's why when Eve ate the fruit, nothing happened. And then Adam sees Eve eating the fruit, and he's like, oh, well, if Eve can eat it, then, like, certainly I can. And then, like, that's when everything fell apart, because Adam was told. And maybe that was the energy of that ancestor that was like, did something that caused something to, like, fall apart. And now, like, we have to come back together. We have to fulfill something. Somebody way back didn't fulfill or honor whatever agreement that they made, right? Because when we're in this Five of Cups space, people do it in, like, we do it today. Like, oh God, like, if you get me out of this space, or like, if you get me this, if you give me that, then, like, I promise, like, I'll turn my whole life around and I'll dedicate myself to you. And we get what we asked for, and then we don't honor what we said we would do. Like, it happens now. The times haven't changed that much. But now we're in the space of correcting. We're in the space of doing better. Because now, more globally, it's like we're coming into this energy. This Ace of Swords in reverse into the Lady of Wands upright. Now that Adam And the children of Adam are learning to be in a position to honor and respect Lilith and the energy of Lilith. Now it's like that piece of Eve, that piece of Adam that he lost in Eve can return to Adam. So now Adam can be made whole. And then he can meet Lilith, and then we'll have a true sort of like this space. And again, in this card, like the feminine energy already ascended this plane. She has her wings, she has her sword, she has that heart on fire. And it's this one down here who has finally overcome his challenges with the laurel wreath around his head that waits because he rises to sort of meet her. She's already got it figured out. But a lot of like, I don't have to go full into it. So the two mystery cards. The Ace of Swords didn't pop up. We don't see the Ace of Swords or the King of Swords, but this is very different, so it's fine. We have the Dream Angel and we have the Seven of Swords. This is an energy of divine timing. This energy up here, the Dream Angel, like holding, like waiting for the day that her lover returns, waiting for the day where she is valued and sort of respected, and where she can, it's almost like in this space of this Nine of Pentacles, this is that thing that some girls do when like they pretend to like be dumb or they pretend to be stupid or like they water themselves down in order to like get a boy to come in or to do whatever, right? And it's like I've seen it more through movies and stuff when it's like there's a girl who pretends to be bad at bowling so that the boy will come and like show her how to do it, and the boy will be absolute garbage, right? The boy won't be that great at bowling, but she'll pretend to be even worse, right? And then one of her friends will be like, "What are you doing?" Right? And then the boy will walk away, or the boy will leave. He was like, "Oh yeah, baby, like I gotta go, but I'll see you in school tomorrow, or I'll see you wherever tomorrow." And then she bowls like strike after strike after strike. And it's like, girl, like, what are you doing? You don't have to do that for him. Hello? Like, she's been in this position of not really, like, this is that divine mother energy. This is that more divine feminine energy that's always been like above the earth and outside of the earth and trying to like wrap us in its wings with love and compassion. But we haven't been in a space to receive it because we've been so tied up in everything that keeps us out of our heart and everything that keeps us out of receiving the divine to a fuller capacity. And so she's had to be on standby because she can't interact with an energy that is lower than her. That's what caused the Adam Lilith split in the first place. It was that discordance and that disharmony that somehow came into being and then grew. And so here's the dream angel, almost like from a distance, awaiting the day, and from a distance, trying to provide that love and support from the realms beyond the moon. And this Seven of Swords is a card of divine timing. And I love this Seven of Swords because it goes back to that feeling of birthright. It goes back to that feeling of once we've matured enough, once we've honored whatever promises we made all that while ago, once we honor those promises that we make to the divine, it's like, you know, we make these promises to the divine. Oh, like, if you give me a job, I will stop going to Taco Bell. But then you get the job and then you go to Taco Bell and then you lose the job. And you're like, why did I lose the job? Like, how could you do this to me? I feel betrayed. And it's like, and you're eating your Taco Bell as you're doing this. And then you're like, you know what? Like, I'm kind of over Taco Bell, right? And so you stop going to Taco Bell. And then you get the job back. And then you get more. And it's because you stopped going to Taco Bell. It's because you honor that promise you made. And now the divine has to almost sort of love you from a distance. But it's because we put the divine at a distance. It's not because the divine put that space there. And if the space was put there, it was probably put there for good reason. Because there's something that we weren't doing. And in this, we see the sword like waiting until the time is right. So when this is down here and that's up there, I guess that's when this will sort. Oh, there's a dude back there. I didn't even know that. I didn't even notice that. Yeah. So this is a dude. Like, again, it's like, here's the feminine energy. They're waiting with flowers. There's the turtle. Turtles, it's coming through as an energy of longevity because tortoises live to be a lot. Like, they live to be pretty old, right? I think turtles might too. And he's still navigating this sort of space of like getting his internal compass to align right and to point right so that he can escape this repetition of cycles. Instead of like blaming Lilith, blaming Eve. Like, I had a roommate who was toxic AF, the only like bad roommate I've really had. And I remember one day, and he would go into the common area to scream for some reason. I didn't get it. But he was yelling at his girlfriend. He was like, I don't need you. Like, you only hold me back. You only do this. You only do that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's what happens when we don't take accountability, when we don't take responsibility. We never really get to that point where we stop doing the things that we do that actively keep us at a distance, that actively keep us trapped in these cycles. And it's like, as it is a clock, it's also the energy of a compass. Like, we can't find our true north because this thing is like spinning out of control. There's no alignment here. Or there is an alignment, but it's a misalignment. It aligns us to things that keep us in this cycle. And like the divine, it'll just wait. It waits lovingly at a distance, giving you all of the love and support that it can where you are. But a lot of times we only accept that love in a certain way, in a certain form. And so again, it's like we keep ourselves there. And that is giving me the energy of a cup. But yeah, that is a cup. There's an ace of cups stuck in this seven of swords loop, but like this cup is golden. It's like this cup is tarnished. That's how long he's been stuck in these cycles. Like now the whole thing is brown. If this was organic, if this was like a vine, the whole thing is covered in vines now. That's what caused this initial separation. And maybe spirit came down and separated it because things that are not of like frequency can't occupy the same space. And I don't know where or why or when things were sort of put out of order or out of line. But we're in a process now of lining it up. And it's almost like, we all share Adam and Eve. And that thing between Adam and Eve and Lilith can play out in so many ways over and over again, to the point where we get even more splintered and even more fractured off of, I don't want to say off of the path, but again, like, just as the snake was cursed to lose its legs, it was one day bound to gain its wings. So nothing is like, hope is not lost or whatever. I don't know what this is or what this was, but again, take it as it resonates. That can play out on so many levels. And look, there's the sorcerer. Here's the snake. But again, like this snake, it's reminding me of that fox. Because regardless of whether Adam and Eve were tempted or not, they should have been of the character to not eat of the fruit of the knowledge, not eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because he was told directly from God, don't eat the fruit. So it shouldn't matter what kind of energy comes into his life and tempts him. Like if you hear directly from God, like don't do this. I mean, it's probably like, for good reason, not to be rebellious. So like, oh yeah, he told me not to do it, so I did it. Now I'm cursed to live this life of turmoil and struggle and stuff. And it's like, you're not cursed, but you may be in a period of learning, in a period of alignment, right? The card that came out is the Four of Wands. Different paths, different journeys, but they make it there. Some more solitary than others. Bottom of the deck is the Five of Cups. This is actually a deck that I have to split to put it back. There's a lot of inadvertent sort of energy here today. So it'll be Four of Wands and the Four of Swords. I love this. Four of Swords in this deck gives me an energy of emergence, right? And there's something like, here's this person in communion with the divine, and it creates this ripple effect that is very sort of like out of the way, very sort of peripheral, but then it opens this down here. So we emerge from this cave, maybe to go back inside of this one. I don't know. Four of Wands, Four of Swords is gorgeous energy. This half of the deck is the Spirit of Pentacles. Again, with the Five of Cups at the bottom of the deck. This is a mandragora, right? It's a living plant. We see the sun and the moon represented, but the moon is a lot bigger than the sun. The moon is a lot closer. We feel its influence more. The moon is constantly sort of shifting and changing. And so it's like it stirs up this tempest that we can be easily lost in, to the point where we lose our sight and our vision of what lies beyond. Right. I used to have anger issues. And once I got mad, like, anger is something within me that, like, it fuels itself. Like, once I get mad about anything and everything. And even when I try to calm down, it's just like it just keeps bubbling and bubbling up. Like, one time with that toxic AF roommate, I got mad because, like, I'm not the type of person, like, I can be pretty, like, agreeable, but I'm also not the type of person to allow myself to be walked all over or mistreated. And like, one day I got mad and I had to listen to this song called Positive Vibes. I literally danced in my room to the same song on repeat for 2 hours just to calm myself down. And like, after like 45 minutes to an hour, I stopped because I was like, oh, I'm good now. But then I got mad again. I was like, yep, nope, not done, not done. What were those cards? Why was I talking about that? I don't remember. The Five of Cups. Yeah. It's not a punishment. Sometimes it's a learning opportunity. Total fire ginger, yeah. Yeah. My Mars is in Cancer, though, so there's some astrology that might explain it. But yeah, I'm just like, and like, the worst part though is, like, when I get mad, I actually like it. Like, I like being enraged, and it's an emotion that, because of that, I don't allow myself to experience too frequently. Um, Especially before. And like, I remember it was the beginning of last year. I was so afraid because, like, I could feel a little bit of that fire returning. And I've always had a fear, like, well, if I get too passionate or too connected to something, and then if I get mad, I could lose control, and then, like, I'm not allowed to, as an adult, make the same mistakes or hold the same tantrums that I could as a child. And so anger has always been an emotion that I've had a little bit of fear associated with, because it grows and because it fuels itself in me, and because honestly I kind of like it, or liked it. And so it was one that was like, oh yeah, nope. So I would kind of sort of like bend over backwards and do all kinds of like weird pretzely things to not be upset with people. But it taught me to, I don't want to say like have grace or show grace, but it taught me to be more considerate of the other person, and to think more of like, well, maybe they're going through this, or maybe they're experiencing that, or maybe like what I'm receiving right now, it's not for me to take personally. Maybe I'm just the nearest outlet for them to take this out on. And it's like, well, if there are other reasons, if there are other factors and motivators behind this, then I don't want to get like fully mad and upset. Cause, like, again, like, what if they're upset? That's not going to help anybody. And so it gave me the opportunity to develop that skill, to be able to sort of like empathize or reach out to somebody else, or try to picture where they are, even if I'm upset. So I'm grateful for that. And I don't have to be afraid of that anger anymore. Yeah. And also, like who I am now, like, I wouldn't go back to that place, right? So the Eight of Swords came out with this number 4 that might be a rune or something. The swords in this deck are Nordic, they're Norse. Also, I have like Scandinavian DNA. I was like, where did that come from? I was just like randomly super interested in Norse mythology one year. Like, God of War 4 came out, and that it takes place with the Norse pantheon. And then I saw the show on Netflix, The Almighty Johnsons. And then one of my friends got a book on Norse lore and mythology from the library, and she let me borrow it. And then, like, later that year, I get my DNA done. It's like, oh, I'm like a fairly like 2% Scandinavian or something like that, and like 5% like Irish and British. It's probably mostly Irish, probably some British in there, and then like broadly European. So what I notice here, it feels like there were certain things we were fated to go through. Also, there's a little bit of a runic energy here, but these feel like runes of binding. I don't know if they actually are, because I don't know pretty much anything about runes, but these feel like runes of binding. But it feels like Odin's crows are like trying to undo these sort of threads, or maybe like one of them is a rune of binding and one of them is a rune of unbinding. And so, well, there's another one. I don't know what that is. Or is that a clump of? No, yeah, there's another one. I don't know what this is. But it's like it's for us to balance the binding and unbinding to sort of have like, again, like with that being a healthier fear, it's like it sort of keeps us in line. It helps. It's like a brace that gets your spine aligned. It's something that helps you maintain that alignment. Or like braces, right? Bottom of the deck is the Seven of Cups. This is temptation. And there's a lot of temptation in this card. um, so this is temptation. This Eight of Swords more so than it is. And in the past, it could have been more extreme for a different reason. But there's this like echoed and mirrored like Ace of Swords, Ace of Swords, Three of Swords, Three of Swords, Four of Swords, Four of Swords energy. Honestly, it feels like it keeps us in line. And immediately what comes to mind is with great power comes great responsibility, right? It's like the scales are already off center. Everything is already off kilter. It's already skewed. And so adding more distortion to a situation will only cause further distortion. And sometimes it may feel a little restrictive, but it's worth it. Eight of Swords and the Seven of Cups, it's a card of like, because like when we don't give in to certain temptations, then we can feel like really sort of like locked into something and bound, and like we could feel like, well, I don't have the opportunity to experience this in life. And it reminds me of when I was younger, and whenever I would want to do something that I knew was stupid, that my mom knew was stupid, but I was like, I'm a kid, like right now the consequences are less for me, so while I'm a child, I should be able to make mistakes, even if I know it's a mistake when I want to make it. And she was like, no. Like, if you already know it's a mistake, why would you make it? Like, I understand your point that like you don't have like a lot of responsibility right now. Like you're freer, like this is the time where you can make mistakes and learn and grow. And but like if you already know that something is a mistake, if you already know that something isn't it, then why would you go for it? Why would you give it time, energy, effort? Why would you sort of set yourself off the path like that? And we're never off path, but there is like a quicker way. It reminds me of that Four of Wands, right? It's like you can take the sort of straighter way or you can take that winding way. And whichever way you go is your way. But you could choose a way that has less like challenge and less difficulty, and it's less, right? Like, you know, I wanted Taco Bell, but now I medically can't eat Taco Bell. But now that you medically can't eat Taco Bell, you're in a space to receive that job that you lost because you promised the divine that you wouldn't go to Taco Bell anymore. But, as soon as you got what you want, you were right back to where you were in the beginning. That's why some people can like win the lottery and almost end up worse off after all the money is gone than before they won in the first place. Because now they've built up an expectation. Now that they've had access to something, now they want that experience, but they didn't do anything to keep themselves aligned with maintaining that experience. And it's like it's almost better to not know how great things could have been because now you got to live life without it. And a lot of times, instead of us taking accountability and responsibility for why it is that we lose, we sort of walk around and skulk around like, oh, I remember when I had this, and we cope. We cope with what it is that we lost. So with that, it was lovely. I got to go to the restroom. I hope no one's in the bathroom. I'll catch y'all later. I hope you have a good one, everyone. Whenever you see this, I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that you can find places and spaces where you can connect to your inner truth, mirror truth. When you can connect to your inner truth and where you can just intuitively set yourself on a path to fulfill things that are for you to fulfill in whatever way that looks like for whatever reason, right? So I'll catch you later. Bye. Oof.